The first rays of dawn spread across the crystal plains of Kepler 442b, painting the endless fields in shimmering shades of gold and silver. For a brief moment, the colony looked peaceful. Perfect. Then the ground exploded. A deafening blast shattered the morning silence. The shockwave ripped across the valley, sending crystal fragments into the air like glittering rain. Elder Thane's breakfast bowl slipped from his hands and crashed onto the stone floor. Another explosion followed. Then another. The walls of his home trembled. He rushed to the window. His heart froze. Thick columns of black smoke rose from the distant mining complex, twisting into the orange sky like giant serpents. Poplar above the colony, enormous warships descended through the clouds. Dark, angular, silent. They moved like metallic predators circling helpless prey. For over 3 centuries, the Valari had called Kepler 442b their home. They were a peaceful people, tall and graceful, with shimmering silver skin that reflected the planet's sunlight like polished metal. Their long, delicate fingers were perfectly suited for crafting the rare energy crystals that grew deep beneath the planet's surface. Those crystals powered starships across the galaxy. They were priceless. And now, someone had come to claim them. Thane's communication device suddenly erupted with frantic alerts. One transmission after another flooded the screen. The mining facility has been breached. They're inside the central processing plant. We need immediate. The message dissolved into screams. Another transmission replaced it. This is Port Authority. Unknown vessels have landed without authorization. Gunfire echoed in the background. Then silence. A third call came through. Children were crying. Someone begged for help. The signal vanished. Every channel carried the same terrifying story. Chaos. Death. Panic. Sir. A trembling voice broke through the noise. Thane turned. His young assistant, Mara, stood frozen beside the colony's main observation screen. You need to see this. Her face had turned pale. The live security feed filled the display. The streets outside the mining complex were overrun. Towering creatures marched through the colony. They resembled enormous ants standing upright on 2 powerful legs. Their black armor reflected the burning buildings around them, while crackling weapons hummed with deadly blue electricity. Not one of them hesitated. Not one showed mercy. Behind the soldiers marched hundreds of Valari civilians, workers, engineers, miners, families. Their hands were locked in glowing energy restraints, forcing them forward like prisoners. Anyone who stumbled was struck with electric batons. Anyone who resisted never stood up again. Thane felt a knot tighten in his chest. This can't be happening, he whispered. The Valari had never gone to war. They had no standing army, no battle fleets, no planetary defenses. For centuries, they had believed neutrality would protect them. Today, that belief was dying before their eyes. The camera suddenly shifted. A towering armored figure stepped into view. Unlike the others, his armor was covered in crimson markings that symbolized rank. He slowly removed his helmet. His compound eyes scanned the terrified prisoners. Then he spoke. His cold voice echoed through loudspeakers across the colony. By order of the Zarok Dominion, this world now belongs to us. Anyone who resists, he looked directly at the nearest Valari child, will serve as an example. Silence swept across the colony. In that single moment, 300 years of peace came to an end. The Kraxan Empire, Thane whispered. He had heard stories about these beings. They conquered worlds and turned the people into slaves. Their soldiers were strong, cruel, and impossible to reason with. The communication device crackled again. This time it was Commander Zar of the Kraxan forces. His voice sounded like grinding metal through the translator. People of this world, you now belong to the Kraxan Empire. You will work in the crystal mines. You will obey our orders. Anyone who fights will be destroyed. This is your only warning. Then's hands shook as he looked at his people on the screen. The Valari had no army, no weapons, no way to fight. They were miners and farmers, not warriors. But maybe someone in the galaxy would help them. Mira, Activate the emergency broadcast system, then ordered. Send a distress signal to every world within 1,000 light years. The young Valari worked quickly at the control panel. Soon their desperate message was traveling through space at the speed of light, carried by quantum transmitters that could reach across the galaxy. This is Elder Thane, of the Valari colony, on Kepler 442b. We are under attack by the Kraxan Empire. Our people are being enslaved. We have no military, no weapons to defend ourselves. Please, if anyone receives this message, we need help. We need rescue. Our coordinates are the message went out again and again, an automated distress call that would repeat for days. Across the galaxy, different species received the transmission. The Zenturi Council discussed it briefly before deciding the distance was too great. The Helix Federation said they were already fighting their own war. The Quantum Collective calculated that the cost of helping would be too high. Most species had the same response: sympathy, but no action. The Kraxan Empire was powerful and dangerous. Their ships were heavily armed, their soldiers brutal. It was safer to ignore the plea for help than to risk making enemies. But the message also reached the outer colonies of Earth. Hot. Captain Yoonho Kim was drinking coffee in his quarters aboard the Iron Resolve when the communication came through. He was a short, stocky man with graying hair and scars on his hands from years of military service. His ship was docked at Titan Station for repairs after their last mission. "Captain, we're receiving a galactic distress signal," said Zeman Park, his chief engineer. She was a brilliant woman in her 30s, who could fix anything and build weapons that most people had never imagined. "It's from a species called the Valari." Yoonho listened to the message with growing anger. He knew about the Kraxan Empire. They had tried to attack a human colony once. It had not gone well for them, but apparently they had not learned their lesson. "Sir, the Galactic Council is discussing the situation," reported Ji Wuhan, the communications officer. She was monitoring the diplomatic channels between different alien governments. "Most species are refusing to help. They say it's too dangerous." "Too dangerous," Yoonho repeated with a bitter laugh. "These aliens don't understand what dangerous really means." Taewon Lee, the navigation officer, looked up from his console. He was a former Navy man like the captain, and his face showed the same anger. "Sir, the Kraxan have 13 ships in that system. They're using the planet's own population as slave labor to mine the crystals." 13 ships, Sen said thoughtfully. "That's a lot of firepower." "Not enough," Yoonho replied simply. The captain opened a channel to Earth Command. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen, looking tired. She had been fighting bureaucrats all day, trying to get permission for a rescue mission. "Yoonho, I know what you're thinking, but the council wants us to send medical supplies and maybe evacuate a few refugees. They specifically said no military action." "Admiral, with respect, the council doesn't understand the situation. These Kraxan will kill every Valari on that planet once they're done mining the crystals. We've seen their pattern before." Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. She knew the captain was right. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 20 years, but they had learned quickly how things worked. Most species preferred to avoid conflict even when innocent people were dying. "What are you proposing, Captain?" "Let me take the Iron Resolve to Kepler 442b. Tell the council we're delivering humanitarian aid. And if they ask what kind of aid..." Yoonho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "The permanent kind." Admiral Chen nodded slowly. "I never heard this conversation. Your ship is loaded with medical supplies and food for refugees, nothing else." "Understood, Admiral." After the transmission ended, Yoonho called his senior officers to the briefing room, along with Sin Taiwan and Ji Woo. There was Hee-Jin Choi, the medical officer who had served in 3 different war zones. Dong-Hun Ryu, the tactical officer, had been special forces before joining the Space Navy. Min Chang commanded the ship's Marines, and Yoon Jeong was their intelligence specialist. "We have our orders," Yoonho said simply. "We're going to help the Valari." "Sir, what exactly are we walking into?" asked Dong Hyun. "A system controlled by Kraxan forces, 13 heavy ships, maybe 3,000 soldiers on the ground, and about 50,000 Valari civilians who need our help." The officers looked at each other. They had been in bad situations before, but this sounded like suicide. "Sir," Minnick said carefully, 13 enemy ships is a lot for one vessel to handle." "Yes," Yoonho agreed. "It would be, if we were planning to handle them gently." "So?" Minnick grinned. She understood what the captain meant. The Iron Resolve looked like a simple cargo ship from the outside, but inside it carried weapons and armor that would surprise anyone who attacked it. "How long until we're ready to depart?" John Ho asked. 6 hours, Sin replied. "I need to finish installing the new targeting systems. Make it 4 hours. The Valari don't have time to wait." As his officers left to prepare, Yun-Ho looked at the star charts. The journey to Kepler 442b would take 3 days at maximum speed. He hoped the Valari could survive that long. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans received a distress call, they didn't just send aid, they sent something much more dangerous. The Iron Resolve dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system with barely a whisper. To anyone watching, it looked like just another cargo hauler making a routine delivery. The ship's hull was painted in the standard gray and white colors of civilian vessels, with fake company markings along the sides. Captain Yun-Ho Kim stood on the bridge, studying the tactical display. The enemy fleet was exactly where intelligence had predicted: 12 heavy cruisers, and 1 massive dreadnought in orbit around Kepler 442b. The ships were arranged in a defensive pattern that would make any normal attack impossible. "Passive scans complete, Captain," reported Yoonji Song from her intelligence station. "The Kraxen have 3 patrol routes around the planet. Their main fleet stays in high orbit while smaller ships ferry supplies to the surface." Yun-Ho nodded. The Kraxen were efficient. He had to give them that. They had turned the Valari planet into a mining operation in less than a week. Streams of cargo ships moved between the surface and the fleet, carrying precious crystals up to the waiting vessels. "So men, status report on our systems," the captain ordered. Chief Engineer Summon Park checked her displays. "All weapons are powered down and hidden behind false panels. To their sensors, we look like we're carrying medical supplies and food processors. The new railguns are completely invisible until we activate them." The Iron Resolve was one of Earth's most advanced warships, disguised as a merchant vessel. Its real weapons were hidden behind armor plates that could slide away in seconds. The ship's hull looked standard, but underneath lay experimental materials that could withstand hits from enemy weapons that would destroy most galactic ships. "Dong Hyun, what do you think of their formation?" Yun-Ho asked his tactical officer. Dong Hun Ryu studied the enemy positions with the eye of someone who had spent years fighting. "They're set up to defend against a conventional attack, sir. Long-range engagement, energy weapons, the standard galactic doctrine. But they're not expecting anyone to get close. Their point defense systems are minimal, and their ships are positioned too far apart for mutual support in close combat." Yun-Ho smiled. The Kraxen were making the same mistake most alien species made. They assumed everyone fought the same way they did. Long-range energy exchanges, formal battle lines, predictable tactics. They had never fought humans before. "Taewon, take us in slowly. Make it look like we're just another cargo ship requesting permission to dock." Navigation Officer Taewon Lee began plotting their approach. "Sir, should I request standard docking clearance?" "No, we're going to make them come to us." Juhan opened communication channels to the Kraxen fleet. "Unknown vessel, you are entering restricted space. State your business, and prepare to be boarded for inspection." The response came quickly from the Kraxen command ship. The alien voice was harsh and mechanical through the translator. "Cargo vessel, transmit your manifest and maintain current position. Inspection teams are being dispatched." "Perfect," Yun-Ho said quietly. "How long until they reach us?" 20 minutes, sir," Taiwan replied. "So men, begin charging the weapon systems, but keep them hidden. Dong-hun, prepare target locks on all enemy vessels. Mukuk, get your Marines ready for boarding actions." Marine Commander Minskang was already suited up in his combat armor. "Sir, my teams are ready to go. We've got breach charges, combat drugs, and enough firepower to take on anything those bugs can throw at us." The bridge crew worked quietly as they prepared for battle. To outside observers, they looked like nervous merchants waiting for inspection. Inside, they were a perfectly coordinated war machine, getting ready to strike. Medical Officer Hai-Han Choi checked in from the medical bay. "Sick bay is ready for casualties, Captain. I've also prepared some special treatments in case we encounter Kraxen paralysis weapons." "Good thinking. Keep me informed." The Kraxen inspection ship was a small, fast vessel, armed with boarding equipment and scanning devices. It approached the Iron Resolve carefully, its crew expecting to find terrified aliens carrying supplies for refugee camps. Captain Ju said, "They're hailing us again. They want to know why we're here. Tell them we're delivering humanitarian aid to the Valari refugees." The Kraxan commander found this amusing. There are no refugees cargo ship. There are only workers in the crystal mines. You will turn around and leave this system immediately. Yunho stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. Open a channel to all cracks and vessels in this system. Channel open, sir. This is Captain Yunho Kim, of the Earth vessel Iron Resolve. I am ordering all cracks and forces to withdraw from the system immediately. You have 1 hour to begin your departure. This is your only warning. The bridge fell silent. Even his own crew seemed surprised by the directness of the ultimatum. Across the system, Kraxan commanders looked at their displays in confusion. One small cargo ship was threatening an entire invasion fleet. The response came from the Dreadnought, unknown human vessel. You are either very brave or very stupid. We are the Kraxan Empire. We do not retreat from cargo haulers. Sir, Yunji said quietly, I'm detecting high-energy weapon charges on multiple enemy ships. They're preparing to fire on us. Let them, Yunho replied calmly. Taiwan, begin evasive maneuvers. So men, are our weapons ready? Ready and waiting, Captain. The first cracks and energy blasts lit up space around the Iron Resolve. The human ship dodged and weaved between the attacks with an agility that surprised the enemy gunners. This was no ordinary cargo vessel, sir. Their inspection ship is moving to attack position, Dong Hyun reported. Take it out. The Iron Resolve's hidden weapons revealed themselves in a burst of sliding armor panels. Railguns emerged from what had looked like cargo compartments. Energy weapons appeared where sensor arrays should have been. In seconds, the disguised merchant vessel transformed into a predator. The first rail gunshot hit the Kraxan inspection ship dead center. The metal projectile accelerated to incredible speed, punched through the alien vessel's shields and armor like they were made of paper. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash. What was that? Came a panicked transmission from the Kraxan fleet. That, Yunho said calmly, was your one warning. You chose to ignore it. The Iron Resolve accelerated toward the main enemy fleet, with a speed that defied its apparent size. Sman had designed the engines to produce far more power than any cargo ship should possess. The vessel streaked through space like a hunting missile. Sir, the enemy fleet is trying to form a battle line, Donghyun reported. Too slow. Taewon, take us right through the middle of them. Sir, you heard me. We're going to punch a hole through their formation and keep going. The Kraxan commanders could not believe what they were seeing. The human ship was charging directly at their defensive line, making no attempt to engage in proper long-range combat. It was either suicide or madness. It was neither. It was human tactics. The Iron Resolve hit the Kraxan formation like a hammer. Its experimental armor absorbed energy weapon hits that should have destroyed it. Its point defense system shot down incoming missiles with inhuman accuracy, and its weapons fired continuously, targeting enemy ships with devastating effect. Direct hit on enemy cruiser number 3, Dong Hun called out. Her shields are down, and she's losing atmosphere. Keep firing. Minsuk, prepare boarding teams. Sir, we're going to board enemy ships in the middle of a fleet engagement. That's exactly what we're going to do. The Kraxan had never seen anything like this. Their enemies always fought at long range, using careful tactics and avoiding risks. But these humans seemed to think that the most dangerous place in a battle was exactly where they wanted to be. Captain Ju reported, I'm receiving transmissions from the Galactic Council. They're demanding to know what's happening here. Tell them we're delivering humanitarian aid, the permanent kind. As the Iron Resolve carved its way through the enemy formation, explosions lit up the space around Kepler 442b. The Kraxan fleet, which had seemed so powerful and intimidating, suddenly found itself in a real fight, for the first time in years. On the planet's surface, Elder Thmei and his people watched the battle with amazement. The single ship that had come to help them was fighting 13 enemy vessels, and winning. Who are these humans? Mira asked in wonder. Miro shook his head. I don't know, but I think we're about to find out why the galaxy calls their world a death world. Above them, the Iron Resolve continued its deadly work, proving that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can send in response to a distress call is not a rescue ship, but a warship crewed by people who refuse to let bullies win. Commander Vexar of the Kraxan Imperial Fleet stood in the command center of his dreadnought, watching his carefully planned invasion turn into chaos. In 20 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like the human ship that was currently tearing through his fleet. Status report. He barked at his communications officer. Sir, we've lost 2 cruisers completely, and 3 more are badly damaged. The human vessel seems to be immune to our energy weapons. Beegzar studied the tactical display. The Iron Resolve was moving through his fleet like a predator among sheep, striking fast and hard before moving to the next target. Its weapons were unlike anything in the galactic databases. Metal projectiles that moved so fast they punched through shields and armor without slowing down. What kind of species builds weapons like this? He wondered aloud. His intelligence officer, a nervous Kraxan named Zekran, consulted his files. Sir, the humans come from a world they call Earth. The Galactic Council classifies it as a Class 12 death world. Class 12? Vexar had heard of death worlds before, but never anything above Class 8. What does that mean? According to the records, sir, their planet tried to kill them every day for millions of years. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, toxic atmosphere changes, ice ages, meteor impacts. Only the strongest and most adaptable survived. Vexar looked back at the display. One of his cruisers was trying to ram the human ship, a desperate move that usually worked against other species. The Iron Resolve simply adjusted course slightly and fired its railguns at point-blank range. The cruiser disappeared in an explosion that lit up half the system. Sir, his weapons officer called out. The human ship is hailing us directly. Put them on screen. The human captain appeared on the main display. He was a short, sturdy man, with gray hair and calm eyes that seemed to look right through the viewing screen. When he spoke, his voice was steady and completely without fear. Commander Vexar, I am Captain Yoonho Kim. You have 15 minutes left to withdraw from the system. I suggest you use that time wisely. Vexar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the command center. Human, you have one ship against my remaining fleet. You cannot possibly win this battle. Commander, I think you misunderstand the situation. I'm not trying to win a battle. I'm exterminating a threat. The transmission ended. Vexar stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his officers. All ships, focus fire on the human vessel. Concentrate everything we have. Across the Kraxan fleet, energy weapons charged to maximum power. Missile launchers loaded their deadliest warheads. This would be the killing blow that ended the human threat. On the Iron Resolve, Sin Park watched the energy readings spike across the enemy fleet. Captain, they're charging for a massive coordinated strike. Every ship in their fleet is targeting us. Good, Yoonho replied calmly. Taewon set course for the gas giant. Maximum speed, sir. Taewon looked confused. The gas giant was on the opposite side of the system from the main battle. Trust me. The Iron Resolve suddenly changed direction, accelerating away from the Kraxan fleet toward the massive planet that dominated the outer system. The enemy commanders were confused by this apparent retreat, but they followed, determined to finish the human ship. Donghune, I need precise timing on their weapons cycle, Yanho ordered. Sir, they'll be in firing position in 30 seconds. All weapons charged and ready. Taewon, slingshot maneuver around the gas giant. Use the gravity well to accelerate us back toward the fleet. Understanding dawned on the navigation officer's face. Yes, sir. The Iron Resolve dove toward the gas giant, using its powerful gravitational field to gain enormous speed. At the last second, Taewon adjusted their course, sending the ship shooting back toward the Kraxan fleet like a stone from a slingshot. Sir, we're approaching 80% of light speed, Taewon called out. This is faster than any ship should be able to survive. Our ship isn't like any other ship, Sen said proudly. I designed her to handle this. The Kraxan fleet was still in firing position when the Iron Resolve came screaming back at them at nearly the speed of light. Their targeting computers couldn't track something moving that fast. Their weapons couldn't turn quickly enough to follow. Fire everything, Vexar screamed. The Kraxan fleet unleashed everything they had, but the Iron Resolve was already past them, before most of the shots reached where it had been. The human ship's railguns fired continuously as it passed through the formation. Each shot precisely targeted at critical systems. Direct hits on 5 enemy vessels, Donghoon reported. Their main engines are destroyed. Minio, prepare boarding parties, Yoonho ordered. Marine Commander Minikong had been waiting for this moment. Teams Alpha through Delta, prepare for combat boarding. We're going in hard and fast. The Iron Resolve slowed and turned back toward the damaged cracks and ships. Small attack pods launched from hidden bays, each carrying a team of human marines equipped for close combat. Sir, Yoonjung reported, I'm detecting panic communications across the enemy fleet. They're calling for reinforcements from the nearest cracks on base. How long until those reinforcements arrive? 12 hours minimum. More than enough time. Ju opened a channel to the planet's surface. The communication screen lit up with the face of Elder Thane. The Val-Ari leader looked exhausted, but hopeful, as he watched the battle raging above his world. Elder Thane, this is Captain Kim. Are your people safe, Captain? Most of our population is in the mining camps, but the Kraxan guards are becoming nervous. They're talking about executing prisoners if the battle continues. Yunho's expression darkened. That would be a mistake. We don't negotiate with people who threaten civilians. Captain, there are 3,000 Kraxan soldiers on the surface. How can you possibly rescue all of our people? Elder, you asked for help. We don't do things halfway. The first boarding pod hit a damaged Kraxan cruiser with the force of a small meteor. The pod's cutting laser burned through the hull in seconds, and human Marines poured into the enemy ship. Marine Sergeant Dao Kim led his team through the ship's corridors, moving with the speed and precision that came from years of training in Earth's most dangerous environments. The Kraxan soldiers they encountered were tough fighters, but they had never faced opponents like humans. "Contact front," shouted Corporal Young Miley, as Kraxan warriors appeared at the end of a corridor. Their weapons fired streams of electricity designed to paralyze most galactic species. The electricity had no effect on the human Marines. Their combat suits were designed to handle electrical attacks, and their bodies were naturally resistant to many forms of energy weapons. "That all you got?" Young Mi called out as she fired her plasma rifle. The weapon designed on Earth to work in any environment cut through cracks on armor like it was made of cloth. On another ship, Lieutenant Sang-Woo Park and his team were fighting their way to the engine room. The Kraxan had barricaded themselves behind blast doors. Thinking they were safe, they were wrong. "Hyun-woo, bring up the cutting charge," Sang-Woo ordered. Private Hyun-woo Nam attached a small device to the blast door. The charge used a focused fusion reaction to cut through any known material. The door disappeared in a flash of white light. "Through the breach," Sang-Woo yelled. His team rushed into the engine room where terrified Kraxan engineers were trying to activate the ship's self-destruct system. They never got the chance. Back on the Iron Resolve, Hyagin Choi was monitoring the boarding actions while preparing her medical bay for casualties. "Captain, I'm receiving reports from all boarding teams. The Marines are encountering heavier resistance than expected, but they're advancing on all fronts. Casualties, minor injuries only. The enemy weapons aren't very effective against our armor and physiology." Yunho wasn't surprised. Humans had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill them. Their bodies were naturally resistant to many things that would disable other species, and their equipment was designed for the worst possible conditions. "Sir," Sen called out, "the Kraxan dreadnought is moving to engage us directly. It's 3 times our size, and carrying enough firepower to destroy a planet." Yunho looked at the massive enemy ship approaching on the main screen. Its hull was covered with weapons and energy discharges crackled around its shield generators. "Range to target, 5 minutes at current speed. Perfect. That gives us just enough time to finish with their escorts." The remaining Kraxan cruisers were trying to form a defensive line around their command ship, but the Iron Resolve was already among them. Its weapons fired continuously, each shot placed with surgical precision. "Enemy cruiser Gamma is losing life support," Dong-hyun reported. "Enemy cruiser Delta is venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Keep the pressure on them. Don't give them time to reorganize." On the planet's surface, Kraxan Commander Thikvar received urgent messages from the fleet. His invasion force was being destroyed by a single enemy ship, and his ground troops were starting to panic. "All units execute Protocol 7, he ordered. "If we cannot hold this world, we will make sure no one else can use it." Protocol 7 meant killing all the prisoners and destroying the mining facilities. It was a brutal tactic, designed to deny victory to the enemy. Elder Thane heard the order over captured Kraxan communications and felt his heart sink. Just when rescue had seemed possible, his people faced extermination. But Marine Commander Minya Kong stood in the Iron Resolve's launch bay, watching his teams prepare for what most galactic species would consider impossible. Around him, 60 human Marines checked their weapons and armor one final time. They were about to board enemy ships in the middle of a space battle. "Listen up," Minsk called out over the noise of weapons charging and armor systems activating. "Intelligence reports show standard cracks on ship layouts. Engine rooms are located in the rear sections. Command bridges are forward and up. Life support systems are in the central core. Our job is simple: capture these ships intact and secure any prisoners." Sergeant Jung-O raised his hand. Sir, what about cracks and paralysis weapons? Medical has provided countermeasures. Your armor will protect you from most of their electrical attacks, and Dr. Choi has given everyone immunity boosters. Trust your equipment and trust your training. The Marines nodded. These were all veterans who had fought on the colony worlds, places where the local wildlife could kill you in dozens of creative ways. Armored aliens with energy weapons seemed almost easy by comparison. Teams Alpha and Beta, you're taking the damaged cruiser on our port side. Teams Gamma and Delta, the battleship that's trying to run. Teams Echo and Foxtrot, you're with me on the command cruiser. The first boarding pod launched with a soft thump. Inside, Sergeant Du Kim and his 8-man team watched the target ship grow larger on their screens. The cracks and vessel was venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches, its lights flickering as power systems failed. 30 seconds to impact, called out Corporal Jinhyo Park from the pilot seat. Target's point defense systems are offline. We're going in clean. The pod hit the cracks on ship's hull and immediately began cutting through the metal with focused laser beams. Within seconds, a perfect circular hole appeared in the enemy vessel's side. Go, 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 Delu shouted. His team poured through the breach into a dimly lit corridor. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls, and the air smelled of ozone and burned plastic. Somewhere in the distance, alarms were blaring in the Kraxan language. Movement ahead, whispered Private Sujin Han, pointing down the corridor with her plasma rifle. 3 Kraxan soldiers rounded the corner, their insect-like faces hidden behind combat masks. They moved on 4 legs with surprising speed, their weapons already charging. The aliens fired first, sending streams of blue electricity down the corridor. The energy hit the human Marines and simply dissipated across their armor, without effect. That tickled, Sujin commented as she returned fire. Her plasma bolt caught the lead Kraxan center mass, burning through his armor like paper. The other 2 tried to retreat, but human Marines were faster than most species expected. Clear front, Du reported into his radio. Moving to Objective Alpha. Objective Alpha was the ship's engine room. According to intelligence reports, capturing it would prevent the vessel from self-destructing or escaping. The team moved through the ship's corridors with practiced efficiency, clearing each room and junction. They encountered more resistance as they got deeper into the ship. The Kraxan had set up defensive positions with portable shield generators and heavy weapons, but human tactics were unlike anything they had prepared for. Smoke grenades, Dalsu ordered. The corridor filled with thick white smoke that blocked visual sensors. The Kraxan fired blindly into the cloud, but the human Marines could see clearly through their armor's infrared displays. Flanking maneuver. Sujin, take Jinyo and go around to the left. Rest of you follow me. While half the team kept the Kraxan busy with suppressing fire, the other half used maintenance tunnels to get behind the enemy position. It was a classic human tactic. When faced with a strong defense, find another way around it. The Kraxan never saw them coming. Meanwhile, on another captured ship, Lieutenant Sang-Woo Park was dealing with a different problem. The enemy crew had barricaded themselves in the command center and were threatening to activate the ship's self-destruct system. Human soldiers came a transmission and broken galactic standard. You will withdraw from our ship or we will destroy it, and everyone aboard. Sang-Woo looked at his team. They were standing outside the heavily armored command center, which was designed to survive direct hits from ship weapons. The blast doors were 3 meters thick and made of compressed metal alloys. Sir, said Corporal Min-Jung Kim, my scans showed 22 Kraxan in there, including several officers. They definitely have access to the self-destruct system. Any other way in? Negative, sir. This is the only entrance. Sang-Woo thought for a moment, then smiled. Min-Jung, how much do you know about cracks in ship design? Standard layout, sir. Command center is connected to the main computer core through data cables that run through the walls. And those cables carry what? Understanding dawned on the corporal's face. Power and data signals, sir. Exactly. And what happens when you introduce a feedback pulse into a data system? It overloads every connected device. Sang-Woo pulled out a small device that looked like a simple computer tablet. In reality, it was one of Earth's most advanced electronic warfare tools, designed to hack and disrupt any computer system. Connect this to the nearest data port. Let's see how well their command systems handle a little human ingenuity. The device went to work immediately, sending carefully crafted signals through the ship's computer network. Within minutes, every display in the Kraxan command center began flickering and displaying error messages. What's happening to our systems? Came a panicked transmission from inside. This is Lieutenant Park of the Earth Marines. Your computer systems are now under our control. You can surrender peacefully, or I can shut down your life support and wait for you to pass out. There was a long silence. Then the blast doors slowly slid open. 22 Kraxan soldiers emerged with their hands raised, their weapons powered down. Smart choice, Sang-Woo said. Back on the Iron Resolve, Captain Yunho watched the boarding actions through real-time video feeds from his Marines. The sight of human soldiers fighting in zero gravity, toxic atmospheres, and extreme temperatures reminded him why Earth was classified as a death world. Sir, reported Yoonji Song, all boarding teams report successful capture of their objectives. We now control 6 enemy vessels. Casualties. 3 minor injuries, all from falls. No serious wounds. Medical Officer Haijin Choi's voice came over the intercom. Captain, I'm treating some Kraxan prisoners for plasma burns and electrical shock. They're asking how we're immune to their paralysis weapons. What did you tell them? That humans are very hard to kill. On the planet's surface, Kraxan Ground Commander Thevar was receiving increasingly desperate reports from his fleet. Ship after ship had gone silent, or reported capture by human boarding parties. His invasion force was being destroyed by a single enemy vessel. Sir, his communications officer reported, the humans are hailing us directly. Put them through. Captain Yunho's face appeared on the screen, and Tekvar felt a chill run down his spine. The human's eyes were completely calm, but there was something predatory about his expression. Commander Thevar, this is Captain Kim. I understand you're planning to execute Valari prisoners. Human, my orders are clear. If we cannot hold this world, no one can have it. Commander, let me explain your situation. We have captured 6 of your ships and are currently boarding your remaining vessels. Your fleet will be completely under our control within the hour. Your ground forces have no orbital support and no way to escape this planet. Thafar tried to maintain his composure. We still have 3,000 soldiers and all the Valari workers. If you attack us, they will die. No, Commander. If you harm a single civilian, you will learn why the galaxy fears Deathworlders. The transmission ended, leaving Tekvar staring at a blank screen. Around him, his officers looked nervous. They had heard stories about humans, but most had dismissed them as exaggerations. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, maybe we should consider negotiating. Negotiate? Tekvar snarled. We are Kraxan. We do not negotiate with inferior species. But even as he said it, he could hear the doubt in his own voice. The humans had just destroyed his entire fleet with a single ship. Their soldiers were capturing his vessels with ease. Maybe these Deathworlders were different from other species. In space above, Minyo Kang was leading his team through the corridors of a Kraxan command cruiser. This ship was larger than the others and more heavily defended, but human Marines had dealt with worse odds before. Contact front, shouted Sergeant Young Suckley, as a squad of Krax and elite guards rounded the corner ahead. These were not ordinary soldiers. They wore heavier armor, carried more powerful weapons, and moved with the confidence of professional warriors. Their energy weapons were more advanced than standard infantry gear. The first blast hit Corporal Dongwook Shin square in the chest, sending him staggering backward. But the Marine stayed on his feet, his armor absorbing most of the impact. Is that supposed to hurt? Dongwook asked, as he raised his own weapon. The Kraxan guards had never encountered enemies who could simply walk through their most powerful attacks. They hesitated for just a moment, unsure what to do. That moment was all the humans needed. Minox's team moved with deadly efficiency. Plus, Commander Vexar stood alone on the bridge of his dreadnought, watching the tactical display show the destruction of his fleet. 11 ships had been captured or destroyed by the humans, and now only his command vessel remained. The massive warship was 3 times the size of the human vessel, armed with enough firepower to level a continent. But Vexar was no longer confident of victory. Sir, his weapons officer called out, the human ship is approaching. They're hailing us. Put them through. Captain Yunho Kim appeared on the main screen, his expression calm and determined. Behind him, Vexar could see the human bridge crew working efficiently at their stations. There was no panic, no urgency, just professional soldiers doing their job. Candor Vexar, this is your final opportunity to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Vexar laughed, though the sound was hollow. Human, you may have defeated my escort ships, but this is a Kraxan Imperial dreadnought. I have enough firepower to destroy your vessel 100 times over. Commander, you're making the same mistake your fleet made. You assume we fight like everyone else? What do you mean? Yunho's expression grew colder. You're about to find out. The transmission ended. Vexar turned to his crew with renewed determination. All weapons, target the human vessel. Fire everything we have. The dreadnought's main battery opened fire, sending massive energy beams across space toward the Iron Resolve. The weapons were designed to punch through planetary shields and had never failed to destroy any target. The beams hit the human ship dead center, and the Iron Resolve kept coming. Report, BXR shouted. Sir, our main weapon struck their vessel directly, but their armor is absorbing the energy somehow. They show minimal damage. Impossible. Those weapons can destroy a moon. On the Iron Resolve, Soman Park watched her displays with satisfaction. Adaptive armor is holding, Captain. Their energy weapons are actually making our hull stronger. The ship's experimental armor was designed to absorb and redistribute energy attacks, turning the enemy's own power against them. It was technology that no other species in the galaxy possessed. How long can we maintain this? Hunho asked. As long as they keep shooting at us, sir. The dreadnought continued firing, its weapons growing more desperate as nothing seemed to affect the human vessel. Missile barges exploded harmlessly against the Iron Resolve's point defense systems. Energy weapons only made the ship's armor more resistant to attack. Sir, Taewan Lee reported, I'm detecting power fluctuations in the enemy vessel. Their weapons are overheating. Perfect. Donghyun, target their main weapon arrays. Targeting solutions locked. Captain, fire. The Iron Resolve's railguns spoke with deadly precision. Metal projectiles moving at incredible speed struck the dreadnought's weapon systems, tearing through armor and destroying gun batteries. In seconds, the massive warship's primary armament was reduced to twisted metal. Sir, they've destroyed our main guns, the weapons officer reported. BXR stared at the display in disbelief. His ship was still 3 times larger than the human vessel, but suddenly it felt very small and vulnerable. Launch all fighters, he ordered. Overwhelm them with numbers. Swarms of small cracks and fighter craft poured from the dreadnought's launch bays. There were over 200 of them, enough to destroy any normal ship through sheer volume of fire. The Iron Resolve's point defense systems came online, filling space with streams of energy and metal projectiles. The human weapons tracked and destroyed targets with inhuman precision, shooting down fighter after fighter with mechanical efficiency. Sir, Ji Wuhan reported, I'm receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're demanding we stop our attack and withdraw immediately. Tell them we're providing humanitarian aid, Yonho replied without taking his eyes off the tactical display. Sir, they're saying our methods are too violent and that we're violating galactic law. Ju asked them how many Valari civilians the Kraxen have killed in the past week. The communications officer sent the message and waited for a response. When it came, her face grew grim. They say they don't have exact numbers, but estimate around 8,000 dead. Yunho's jaw tightened. Tell the council that when they develop a peaceful solution to stop genocide, we'll be happy to listen. Until then, we're finishing what we started. The last of the Kraxen fighters died in brilliant explosions around the Iron Resolve. The human ship emerged from the swarm of debris completely undamaged, its weapons still locked on the dreadnought. All fighters destroyed, the tactical officer reported to Vexar. We have no more offensive capability. Vexitar looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. For the first time in his military career, he saw fear in their eyes. The humans had destroyed everything he threw at them without taking significant damage. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, we're receiving another transmission from the planet's surface. Commander Tavar is requesting immediate evacuation. What's his situation? He says the Valari workers are rioting. They've heard about the space battle and are trying to break free from the mining camps. Vexar felt his carefully planned invasion falling apart around him. The fleet was destroyed. The ground forces were in trouble, and a single human ship was still coming for him. Open a channel to the human captain. Yonho's face appeared on screen again, his expression unchanged. Yes, Commander. What do you want? The immediate release of all Valari prisoners. The withdrawal of all Kraxen forces from this system. Reparations for the damage you've caused. And if I refuse, Yunho was quiet for a moment, then leaned forward slightly. Commander, Has anyone ever told you what happened to the last Kraxan fleet that attacked a human colony? No, there were no survivors to tell the story. BXR felt ice in his veins. You're threatening to commit genocide. I'm explaining the consequences of harming innocent people under our protection. The choice is yours. The Kraxan commander looked at his tactical display. His ship was defenseless. His fleet was gone, and his ground forces were trapped on a hostile planet. The humans had given him an ultimatum, and he was finally beginning to understand why their world was called a death world. Sir, his tactical officer whispered, the human ship is charging some kind of new weapon. I've never seen energy readings like this. On the Iron Resolve, Soman Park was making final adjustments to her most experimental system. Captain, the singularity generator is ready. If we fire this weapon, it will create a small black hole that will tear their ship apart from the inside. How small? A black hole? About the size of a basketball, but it will evaporate after a few seconds. Long enough to destroy the target, not long enough to threaten the planet. Yunho nodded. Charge the weapon. Let them see the energy buildup. On the dreadnought, alarms began screaming as sensors detected the massive energy surge from the human ship. Vexar had never seen readings like this before. Looked like the humans were preparing to tear a hole in space itself. Sir, whatever they're charging, it's beyond anything in our databases, the science officer reported. The energy levels are off the scale. Vexar realized he was out of options. His ship couldn't run. The humans were faster. He couldn't fight. They were stronger. And if the energy readings were accurate, they were about to demonstrate a weapon that could destroy his vessel regardless of its size or armor. Open a channel to all Kraxan forces in this system, he said quietly. Channel open. Sir, all units. This is Commander Vexar. I am ordering the immediate cessation of all hostile operations. Release all prisoners and prepare for evacuation. We are withdrawing from this system. On the planet's surface, Kraxan soldiers began laying down their weapons. As the evacuation order came through, Valari workers looked up at the sky where a single human ship had defeated an entire invasion fleet. Elder Thni received a communication from Captain Kim. Elder, your people are safe. The Kraxan are withdrawing. Captain, how can we ever thank you? Just rebuild your world, Elder. Make it better than it was before. As the Iron Resolve watched from orbit, Kraxan transport ships began lifting off from Kepler 442b, carrying the defeated invasion force away from the planet they had failed to conquer. Vexar's dreadnought powered down its weapons and began moving slowly toward the edge of the system. The commander sat in his command chair, staring at the human vessel that had single-handedly destroyed everything he had built. Sir, his communications officer said, we're receiving a final transmission from the human captain. What does it say? Tell your empire that this system is under Earth protection now. Any future attacks will be met with permanent response. Vexar nodded slowly. He would deliver that message, and he suspected it would change how the Kraxan Empire viewed the galaxy's newest members. The humans had sent a clear signal. They would not tolerate bullies, and they had the power to back up their words.